Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of December 23rd to December 29th. Now, before we do any type of recap or look ahead, I got a couple quick little things. One, I got the glory of meeting what I'm going to call my youngest fan this weekend. My girlfriend had me over so we could do Christmas movies and stuff like that, just kind of getting ready for Christmas. And her kids were there. It was really funny. Like, her middle daughter realized that I was the same lady from the YouTube channel. So for her, it was like, oh my God, like there's a little celebrity in the house for her. It was very fun. However, I figured I would do something very special for her and say, Merry Christmas, Taya. Listen to your mom. Because I'll get back over and I'll get you if you don't. Anyways, um, aside from that, this is the last few days to be able to pre-book your sessions going into 2025, buy your gift certificates, whatever you're wanting to do at the discounted rate. Since the beginning of November, I have been running a special where all of my sessions are discounted, an hour long for 35, a 90-minute for $50. Sorry, I went blank for a second. And that rate discount is going away. I'm not raising my prices at the beginning of the year. It's more along the lines of like, I'm not discounting them anymore because my prices have always just been a little bit higher. And one of the reasons that I'm not going to be discounting them anymore is because I'm going to be starting to do more things. And I've already announced this in one prior episode, but now I have a date for everybody. So I'm going to start doing conferences going into 2025. The very first date that I have is going to be at the Spirit Fair in Oklahoma City at the Reed Conference Center. Now, this Spirit Fair is actually going to last from January 25th to the 26th. However, I will only be present January 26th. So that's going to be on the Sunday. You want to come out and see me, I will be at that conference there in Oklahoma City. Now, beyond that, I have other dates of other spirit fairs that I'm going to be doing throughout 2025, but those dates are not completely set in stone quite yet. So I will announce them as they go. These will also be things that will be put up later on in a whole different way. But I'm letting people know like the very first of those conference dates have been approved. And if you have like spirit fairs and stuff that go on in your local area and you want me to take a look at them to potentially come to them, email them to me, send them to me through DM, whatever you got going on, just send them over to me and I'll take a look to see if it's even something that I can do right now. My main focus is to stay somewhere between Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, Tulsa, I'm not Tulsa, Texas, wrong T, and Oklahoma, obviously, because that's where I live. But that doesn't mean that I'm not opposed to doing something else. So, again, first Spirit Fair that has been confirmed is going to be January 26th, Spirit Fair Reed Conference Center in Oklahoma City. Okay, moving along. Oh my goodness. There's so much that's coming to a bit of a head this week that it's going to really confirm for a lot of people that this is the separation, this is the splitting, this is the splintering that has been a part of the vibration. Different directions, different connections, different amounts of trust. We're going in different ways. Holidays be damned. There's so many people when I've talked to you, they're like, oh, they're like, are you ready for the holidays? I'm not doing anything for the holidays. And then they'll like, their guilty side will be like, yeah, I just now put my tree out. I'm like, cool. You got kids and Christmas is in like 5 days. Anything else you got going on? No. We just haven't been in that mode. And a lot of that I blame on Mars. Now, 2 years ago, we had Christmas during a Mars retrograde. However, that particular Mars retrograde had already been going on for like 2 months by the time we got to Christmas. So we didn't have like this amping turnaround that has set the vibration for the entire month the way that we have this time. And we have a lot of transits that are going to come into like their peak, their finalizing in some way, but also commitments of how things are going to progress moving forward, kind of setting the stage for how we go into 2025. So we have a lot of things that are going to come to a head both before the holiday and after the holiday. And I found that very amusing. We've got a couple peak little transits that are hitting Monday, Tuesday. And then the rest light out between Thursday and Saturday, leaving Christmas to be Christmas in some ways. But in other ways, there's going to be like a bubbling boiling hint in that vibration. And I don't want to take away and sit here and say that everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows for Christmas, but I also don't want to sit here and say everything is going to be darkness and turmoil. It's more along the lines of we're going to see splits from a different dynamic. And that's what I feel like we're going to see a lot this week going into the holidays. Some of us feel like everything is going right, that everything's lining out the way that it's supposed to. Everything that we've been trying to turn into reality, it's like we're manifesting our reality as we move forward, as we continue, and we feel like things are going a certain way. However, there are those that are being activated by Mars. There are those that have Mars as their chart ruler, Time Lord, or something along these lines. There's the Leo rising, sorry, you guys are going under the bus, and the Cancer risings that are dealing with that Mars retrograde very, very differently. And in some ways, they can kind of feel, not all, but whatever it comes to that Mars transit, like things have been disrupted, like things have been taken away, like they are not being heard the way that they desire. And some people, whenever we go into the holidays, are going to be like one of two directions. Everything is great and it's all lined out and it's going perfectly. And like, this is where I'm going next. Yeah, yay. And then there's going to be that one sourpuss. Oh, everything is shit, everything is crap, and nothing's going my way, and rah, 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 rah. And the more you hear them throw a fit like an overgrown child, you're like, you kind of get it. I kind of see why your boss doesn't trust you. Like, I wouldn't trust you acting that way. I mean, geez, what? No, thank you. No, thank you. It just makes sense for some reason. And I think we're going to see waves this week of both. But you're going to see it from a different perspective because you're going to have whatever you're going through while simultaneously intermingling with people that are in different vibrations and different fields and different mindsets. And you're going to see their situation too. And there's going to be levels of like understanding and agreement of like, well, I kind of get why grandpa didn't give you the money. I kind of get why your boss doesn't trust you. I kind of get why your wife is leaving you. It kind of makes sense. You're kind of a dick. You're kind of an asshole. It's great to know that kids are watching me and I say stuff like that. Sorry, guys. But we can see it. We're going to see that part of the energy. And as we take that step back and go to our houses, go to our bases, go do whatever we're going to do through the holiday, and then we step back into certain vibrations, whether that is all in this week or whether that is stepping away over the last few days and not going back until next week or some mix in between, depending on how this is laying out for you and the human effect. You used all your PTO days. Whatever we start to go back to is going to feel very, very different than what we left behind. That disruptive part of the vibration is going to be very dominant. And I'm not saying that we're not going in the right direction. We are. But you got to remember, you can't make everybody happy. You're not a taco. You're not a taco. So you're not going to make everybody happy. Some things are going to fall apart. That means it's still edible. Some things are going to get a little overdone. That doesn't mean that we can't still eat the other stuff. Like, there's still going to be things that we can pick apart and pull apart and just rah if we wanted to, or we can make the best of certain situations. And I feel like a lot of us, as we start to go into 2025, that's what we're going to be trying to do, is make the best of the situation, of that new direction, of what we're doing now, of what we're doing next. We're going to try to make the best of it, knowing that we can't make everybody happy. This week has a bit of a peak in the decision making in regards to knowing that we can't make everybody happy. Now, some people, you've already made your decisions. You have. But you haven't been able to fully sign off on everything, fully file everything, fully lay out the next part of the plan. And some of us are going to be trying to do that this week while going through the transits. But in the middle of the week is a holiday. So some of us are going to try to do one or two things on Monday, and this both by holiday and by the astrology. What I say next, some of us are going to do one or two things throughout Monday and Tuesday, knowing that they're not going to get picked back up. They're not going to go in that next direction. They're not going to do anything until later the week or next week / next year, because next year is next week. They're the same. So it's a very interesting vibration to be in. Now, as we go through parts of this week, there will be certain weighted decisions, the realizations of certain roles and certain responsibilities and what we're taking on next. Some of us will also become very aware of what other people had been doing the whole time that we didn't know before. And that can go in good ways and bad ways. But regardless of how we progress, we are going towards a new vibration of gains. And that's quite literally how we start the week. We start the week with the sun, newly in Capricorn, making a square to the nodes. And this is called bending the nodes. Anytime you have a planet square the nodes and start to move towards one specific node, then all of the transits following that tend to move towards a vibration of whatever that node represents. Last summer, we started to square the nodes and everything was moving towards the south node. And over again, we had purge, we had release, we had letting go. We moved away from certain people, certain situations. We came to terms with a different direction in so many ways. But as we go through this week, we're starting to move completely towards the north node and gains. The north node is the head of the dragon. I will consume, I will desire, I want to eat everything in the room and never get fat. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm a greedy baby. But that north node is being hosted by Mars retrograde. The gains are disruptive. The gains are chaotic. The gains can be volatile. As the sun goes to square the nodes, the sun is hosting that Mars retrograde to get where we desire, to achieve the role we wish to have, the success we wish to have that we feel entitled to. We got to break a few eggs. And there will be some breaking of eggs that will follow whatever happens this week. There's some very key decisions. And for a lot of people, the decisions of this week are a mounting situation of prior events. Prior events. Mars is retrograde, going over an area of the sky where he's already been in the last few months. Not only is Mars going to be doing that, but Mars is going to re-enter its opposition to Pluto. And the first one that happened was back at the beginning of November. So again, the last few months. Mercury is direct, and it will go back through its final opposition to Jupiter and its final square to Saturn this week. And that's something that we've been going through since the beginning of November. And in the middle of all of that, we also still have the second square between Jupiter and Saturn that is going to finally perfect this week. Now, the first one occurred back in August during that Mercury retrograde. And it included a conjunction between Jupiter and Mars. Saturn was retrograde, Jupiter and Mars was direct. Didn't matter that one person didn't see eye to eye with the situation, certain decisions of how things were going to progress from there. We're going to move forward. And some people made certain decisions back in August that have now been detrimental to their cause at this time. There were certain things that we did earlier this year that have directly impacted what we are dealing with right now. There's not a whole lot of new in the vibration quite yet. There's picking back up on old situations and old pieces and trying to put them together in a new way so they will actually work, so we can finally progress, so we can finally go to the next level on something or something with someone. I know I said something twice. I don't know why I did that. We have a direction in mind. And again, the bigger part of the equation is it doesn't necessarily matter how we're getting there, because we know we're not going to make everybody happy along the way. There will be frustrations. There will be sour attitudes. We will see that this week. Now, whether that sour attitude is directly about what we're dealing with or about something else, that's a very different conversation. The human effect is I can see both. I've seen a lot of people very much trying to maneuver the best way to handle splits. And there will be parts of this week that completely show us why splits have been necessary, how to handle parts of the splits moving forward, knowing that no matter what we do, that other side is not necessarily going to be happy. But anything that we are working on right now is setting the stage for very big things over the course of the next 6 months. And a lot of that speaks through Jupiter and Saturn. But I'm going to focus on Jupiter and Saturn in a different podcast. So let's get into the chart. Let's get into the week. Let's get into Monday. Let's get into this mess. Okay, here we go. Monday, December 23rd, the moon is going to be in Libra all day long. I am starting the chart off at 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for those that are listening to the audio only versions. And the reason I'm starting this off at this time is because this is whenever the sun is directly squaring the nodes. Here's the south node, 2 degrees, 5 minutes. Here's north node, same thing. They're always opposite of each other, but here's the sun, 2 degrees, 5 minutes, squaring the nodes. And again, that north node is being hosted by a retrograde Mars. The sun is hosting that retrograde Mars. So there's a very big dynamic of being aware, again, that we're going to have to ruffle some feathers. Whether we are doing it directly on Monday, not the situation. But I want people to be prepared that as we go through this week, some of the conversations that are going to be had, not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody is going to get their way, but they're all very, very necessary in regards to parts of that alignment energy with where we're going next. So the sun is squaring the nodes right around 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can see that right here because I'm exact. And everything when it comes to the sun moving forward is focused on our desire. It is focused on where we're going to have gains. It is focused on that vibration surrounding the north node. We have necessary gains to accomplish. And with the sun being in Capricorn, being in Saturn sign while we go through the Saturn-Jupiter square this week, it's not exact yet. We're building to it. It's going to go exact in a few days. But you can see it right here. While that Saturn-Jupiter square is perfecting, it makes us very aware of the role, the responsibility, the weight of certain decisions, and what is necessary. We are taking very strategic steps forward. Okay. Now, moving this along, in the morning time, the moon is going to hit a sextile to Mercury. This is going to go the most exact between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I got the chart at 10:30. Here's the moon, 10 degrees, 31 minutes. Here is Mercury, 10 degrees, 27 minutes. So we're just past the sextile right here. This isn't a heavy energy. The moon is not doing a whole lot on Monday, but whenever the moon makes the sextile to Mercury, this is a newly direct Mercury. So it's like touching base on a prior communication, a prior decision, asking if something has been accomplished, doing some kind of check-in, asking for prices, asking for, confirming our travel plans with the Mercury stuff and knowing that we are going into a holiday. Some of us this is like exactly when we're going to leave. We're letting somebody know, hey, we're leaving now. We should be there by the evening time, just so you're aware. So there can be a lot of things tied to either communication or travel. It does not feel new. It feels like an establishment of prior situation, like I said before. And it's just kind of that check-in energy. It's not super heavy. Monday is pretty light, and that's probably a good thing. Okay, moving along. Speaking of the evening time, the moon, after it's done with its sextile to Mercury, later in the evening is going to hit a trine from Jupiter. Now, this is going to be felt the most exact between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Here's Jupiter, 14 degrees, 8 minutes. Here's the moon, 13 degrees, 57 minutes. There is something that is about understanding. There is something about, again, wealth, money. We can have something about cost. We can also have something that's impacting a lot of people. There can be a lot of hope. There can be a lot of joy. This is a Jupiter thing. Trines are of the nature of Jupiter. But I can't ignore the fact that the moon is in an exact quincunx to Saturn when it's also in that trine to Jupiter. So in some ways, you can also be like finalizing one thing, not knowing if the other person's going to accept it, not knowing if the other person is going to agree to it, not knowing who the other person is. It's like sometimes we are helping one person do something, making it real simple and mundane. You're helping wrap somebody's presents, but you didn't buy these presents and you don't actually know the recipient. You're just going, how do I spell your sister's name again? Is it with a K or a C? Like, how is this one spelled? That type of thing. It's not heavy energy. It doesn't have to be heavy. Again, some of the conversations that are going on right now can have to do with one side that you are not familiar with or you don't see eye to eye with. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It does not feel heavy. I feel like a lot of people are going to be talking a lot, communicating a lot, chatter, a lot of fun in the vibration, which would be nice going into a holiday, but also planning things out and getting aid or help from someone who isn't directly involved, or getting help from somebody that's only of one side of a situation that's going down. There you go. Okay. After that, there ain't a whole lot going on. Monday is pretty chill, honestly. Whenever it comes to the 24th, we're going to get into Tuesday. Our first transit is going to happen in the overnight hours, and it's going to be felt the most between 3 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've got the screen at 4:30. That's why I goofed up just now. And what we got going on is the moon going through a trine to Venus. Well, the moon is in Venus's sign. And after the trine to Venus, the moon is going to go void. So this kind of sets the mood and the vibration for the entire day. This isn't a heavy energy. Again, there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of plans, but it's like that final plan, something with a finality in mind. But that doesn't have to be a heavy finality, just to be clear. It just means like, all right, all the Christmas presents are wrapped. We don't have anything left out to wrap. So we're just waiting for the kids to get here and unwrap on Wednesday. We're just waiting for everyone to arrive. We're just waiting for the next thing. We're just waiting for something to pan out. We're waiting. And I want people to be aware of that theme, that there's going to be a lot of things that we get something to a point, and then it's like, okay, we're done for the moment because we quite literally can't do anything else. We can later. We can't in this moment. Again, the moon is in Venus' sign. The moon is going through the trine to Venus. So it's going through the trine to its ruler, in the sense of like the moon being in Libra. But after this, the moon is going to go void. So again, there's parts of the first part of the week that it feels like we're going to get something done. We get something accomplished, but maybe one other side doesn't have the ability to immediately work on something or receive it. And that takes me to the next part. So I'm going to bump the screen to roughly about 4:30 in the afternoon. We're going to talk about the next thing. Throughout the entire afternoon, Christmas Eve, so December 24th, we are going through the exact square between Saturn and Jupiter. But the entire time, the moon is void. And when the moon is void, we don't tend to accomplish a lot of things. We don't get a lot of things done. And if you're trying to get something done Christmas Eve day, if you're trying to get some kind of feedback, you're trying to get some kind of approval, we're trying to get something, there's going to be things that just don't click for a lot of people, for most people, actually. And I look at it in the sense of like you have to turn in that report, or you were ordered to turn in a report, but then as soon as you go to turn it in, the boss has already left for the day, and you're like, son of a, I could have emailed this. I could have been at home finalizing this to email it. Or you do get an email response, so you do send it over through email, but then you get the response of, okay, I will look at this next week when I get back from the holidays. Like, son of a, why did I have to have it done Christmas Eve day if you weren't going to be able to look at it? You're realizing like there's some kind of like, it's a bit angsty. And there's a reason why. The moon is void, but not only that, throughout the entire day on the 24th and in parts of the 25th, the sun is going through a quincunx to Mars. So we're doing certain things, we're accepting certain responsibilities, we're knocking some things out, but either the other side is not agreeing with us, or they're not accepting it, or they're not present to accept it. You show up at someone's office, but they've already closed for the day. Like, you said you'd be here till 4. It's 3:50. Where are you at? You're not supposed to close till 5. You guys closed at noon. There's nothing online. There's nothing that tells me this. So it's like we have some like missed connections that are very infuriating because you feel like you established something sooner, or you were told something sooner. That's a very mundane way to look at this Saturn Jupiter. This Saturn Jupiter is way bigger than that. And I want to be clear. And that's why I say this particular transit is going to get its own episode. I meant to do it earlier in the week and I didn't have the chance to do it. So I'm going to be doing it this week, right around this Christmas time frame, because I want to explain a part of the dynamic to this, because a lot of this dynamic can also speak back to the things that have already go all the way back to 2020, but for a whole different set of reasons than I would normally talk about. But we're in a very big turning point. So even though you're not meeting with someone right at that specific time, it does not mean that that report was not necessary for you to get it off your plate. So just take everything with a grain of salt. Do not take offense if things do not quite click on the 24th. It's Christmas Eve. People are going to take off. People are going to have issues. Just be prepared for that. Okay. Now, the other thing about the 24th is, again, Mars is going to start to re-enter its opposition to Pluto. And you can see this here. Mars is at 3 degrees, 57 minutes. Here's Pluto, 0 degrees, 51 minutes. Like, it's right there. Now, this does not go exact until January 3rd. But part of this dynamic of stuff that we have already dealt with and having tension and frustration in something that we're launching, we're going to crack a few eggs, is a part of the vibration. And it will remain a part of the vibration until the second week of January. So some of it you just got to deal with. Just letting you know. Okay. Oh, moving this along, we're going to get into the 25th. We're going to get into Wednesday. Merry Christmas, everybody. Okay. The first transit to the 25th is going to be whenever the moon goes into Libra. That is going to happen at the moon leaves Libra and goes into Scorpio. That's going to happen at 2:07 a.m. Central Standard Time. After the moon goes into Scorpio, the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to start a square to Pluto. Now, that is going to be felt the most exact between 3 and 5 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've got the moon right here. It's at 1 degrees, 11 minutes. It's hitting this square to Pluto. So we're just past the exact square. The exact square was closer to 4 a.m., but you can see it pretty close right here at this 4:30 mark. Now, the moon is in Pluto's sign, but the moon is also in Mars' sign. That's the thing about the moon being in Scorpio. It's ruled by both the god of war and the god of death. And this is how we're going to spend Christmas, is the moon in Scorpio. For some people, they're going to lean in the Plutonian side of the moon. what has changed, what has transformed, what we have lost, but what we have gained since then. Pluto is a planet of transformation. It is a phoenix energy. And even if you're going back home for the holiday, that home might not be the way that you remember it. And some of us, whenever we go into this holiday, we're going into it with a new tradition in mind. We're not going to grandpa's house anymore. Grandpa's gone. We're going to Aunt Susie's. Everybody's coming to your house. Something is changing in the holiday. And for some people, it's going to be a little disruptive. For other people, it's going to feel exactly right. And you can't dictate how other people are going to feel in the moment. But I do feel like going through Christmas and knowing that the moon is in Scorpio, I do feel like there's going to be a lot of people that they're struggling in the holiday. And if you got people that are emotionally struggling through Christmas, don't be surprised. But don't think that you can also take something out of the equation and make them shake it off. Like it's not going to be that type of way. There's too much going on in the energy for you to be able to shake somebody into some lucid state that you desire from them. It's just not going to happen. And again, the sun is still going through that quincunx with Mars as we start the moon in Scorpio. It's not going to happen. Just be prepared for that. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, knowing that we're going to land somewhere in the middle. Okay. Now the moon's hitting that square to Pluto. It's again happening in the overnight hours. So between 3 and 6:30 a.m. Some people, if you are traveling, like this is when you're going to arrive, and it's like you're showing up at a dark house because again, it's the wee hours of the morning and not everybody's awake yet. Or one person is awake and you're trying to sneak into the house and not disturb everybody. It depends on like how your dynamic is with your home life. For other people, there are going to be triggers to the holiday. And I want to be clear about that too. Now, as the day progresses and we get more into the daylight part of the morning, for most of us, I say daylight, between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go through a square from Mars. So I got Mars, 3 degrees, 46 minutes, squaring the moon, 3 degrees, 39 minutes. So we're just right before the exact square perfects right here at 9:30 in the morning. There can be tensions. There can be frustrations, but there can also be those conversations that are being had between family members about like, hey, where are you working now? Oh, I don't, you still with so-and-so? You still with so-and-so? You still doing this? And it's like that early morning conversation of like, nope, I don't do that anymore. Nope, we ain't together anymore. Nope, I'm going in this direction. Nope, I'm doing something different. And for some people, it'll be super mundane. No, I don't work there anymore. I'm starting my own business now. I'm going to go in this other direction. I'm going to do this other thing. And if I bump this to 10:30, this is going to actually make a lot more sense to a lot more people. So the moon is still in that square to Mars, but by bumping it the extra hour, what you can also see is the moon is starting to hit a sextile to the sun. Now, for some people, this is going to be like, I don't take that action anymore. I'm not going in that direction anymore. Instead, I'm going to go in this other direction. Or you hear from somebody in the moment, it's like, yeah, I just got laid off, or we're going through a strike. We're going through something right now. There's all this stuff going on at my job and it's just been crazy and I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's like your new brother-in-law, big asterisk on who it is, goes, oh yeah, we were having a situation like that too, but instead we've done this, or we're going in this route. Have you ever thought of this field? Have you ever thought of this possibility? And we can connect a vibration that's not necessarily seeing eye to eye. For some people, you're going to be sitting down at the table trying to mediate, negotiate something right there on Christmas morning, knowing that the kids are in the next room trying to play and do other things. It's like, that's great, Joey. I'm glad you got that little Christmas gift. I'm glad you got that lightsaber. That's awesome. Don't hit your brother with it. We're busy. Holidays be damned. The vibration speaks to doing other things and not necessarily being focused on that. There is something in this energy that speaks to trying to make two people see eye to eye. And some people won't be able to do it. Some people are going to be, again, learning about the disruption of another side. But as they continue to say certain things and act out in certain ways, you're going to be like, oh, well, I wouldn't trust you either if you're going to talk to me that way. If you were talking to your boss that way, if you're treating your clients that way, I wouldn't trust you either. I wouldn't want to work with you either. I wouldn't want to do that either. Or you see you're hearing of a disruption with that Mars square. That's like, huh, well, I would probably have sided with your boss. Like it's just there. And it's all early in the morning. I feel like this can still play out with the human effect at any time throughout the day. But in this early morning time frame, there is something about like hearing about something you don't understand, seeing two people that aren't seeing eye to eye, trying to keep people a little bit more separated, but also trying to have certain conversations that haven't been able to be had up until now. The square between Mars and Moon between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. The sextile between the Moon and the Sun can be felt between 10 a.m. and noon. It's a very busy morning for Christmas morning. But then, after the morning parts are done, there's no more direct transits going on. Now, we are still in the Saturn-Jupiter square. We are also starting to build another square, and that's the square between Venus and Uranus, but it's not going to go exact for a few days. We're building into other things that are going to happen throughout the week, but there's nothing else directly going on to Christmas. So if we're having a busy energy around Christmas, it's going to be Christmas morning. But then once we get into the afternoon, the evening time, not a whole lot going on. So we're going to go ahead and keep this going. We're going to get into the 26th. We're going to get into Thursday. And our first transit is going to happen in the morning time between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this right here. And the moon, 14 degrees, 7 minutes, is going to go through a trine to Saturn, 14 degrees, 7 minutes. So you can see it's actually exact right here at 6:30 a.m. Saturn is hosting the sun. Saturn has just had a square with Jupiter. Some of us that did something just a few days before sent it in, dropped something off, did something that was not immediately going to get picked up on. And it wasn't going to start to get picked up on until later in the week. So some of you guys are going to go into the office on Thursday, seeing stuff on your desk that was from prior in the week. Seeing all of the emails from earlier in the week. You just didn't want to open them on Wednesday. I don't blame you. Take the holiday. But that doesn't mean that you're going in on Thursday to an easy day. You're going to be going in on Thursday to pick up on a lot of things. And there will be people waiting for that reply, for that information, for the feedback. And that comes through based off of the moon's trine to Saturn. It's not a heavy energy. It's actually a very understanding energy. But again, there will be something about needing to know something from the authority figure, from the boss, from the guru, from the teacher. But it's like a few days in the making. It doesn't feel exact to this moment. It feels like we're opening our email and we're seeing something sitting there that that the other person has been waiting for you to notice for a few days. Okay. The moon's trine to Saturn, again, early in the morning can be felt the most exact between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Some of us are just talking to the doctor. We're talking to the guru. We're talking to our elders. We're talking about our elders. We're talking about the roles. We're talking about responsibility. We're giving feedback, this type of thing. Okay. Now, as the day progresses, the moon is going to be in Scorpio all day long. And there's a real interesting energy that starts to play out in the afternoon. And it's going to go the most exact around 4:30 p.m. So I'm going to bump this up to 4:30. And this is when Mercury is going to hit its third opposition to Jupiter. Third one. So we're closing out something. We're doing something for the last time that, again, regarding stuff that we've been working on for a while, for quite a while. Mercury's hitting this opposition to Jupiter. So what does Gemini, Sagittarius rule in your chart? What is this axis for you? Is it your money houses? Is it home and career, family, mothers and fathers? Is it the travel axis? Is this communications? Are we talking about going back to school? Are we talking about little Johnny schooling? Like, what is this rule for you? Because there's something very specific to the Gemini Sagittarius axis that's been going on for everybody since the beginning of November that's going to finally come to a head. It's going to finally get some solutions. It's going to finally get to some completion points as we get to the later half of this week. And this is one element as to why when Mercury hits that opposition to Jupiter. Now, this is going to be the most exact between 4:29 and 4:50 p.m. That's why I got this, of course, at 5:30. The two prior dates that this transit ties back to: November 18th, so before Mercury turned retrograde, and December 4th. So think back to what you were doing at those 2 days. Go through your text messages, go through your calendar, go through anything that you were working through, knowing that we're going to be finalizing some things from the prior dates. And this isn't the only sets of dates that I'm going to give you in the middle of this. So just to be clear about that. Mercury opposite Jupiter, number 3. Now, as the day progresses, the moon is going to go into a square with Venus. Now, this is going to be felt the most exact between 10 p.m. and midnight. I've got it at 10:30 right here. The moon is at 22 degrees, 11 minutes, hitting that square to Venus at 22 degrees, 29 minutes. So we're very, very close to the exact. It goes exact right around 11 p.m. But in this exactness, Venus is also perfecting a square to Uranus. And there's something that is coming to a head. There's something that's coming to a point that requires understanding. But in this moment, whenever the moon is hitting the square to Venus, it's like emotionally asking about the appearance, how something looks, how something feels, getting some level of feedback before we take something to the next level, before we launch something. Can you take a look at how this looks? Can you come over here and tell me what you would do to make this look better, taste better, feel better? I'm thinking of Venusian things right now. Now, Venus is in Aquarius. It's in an air sign. So whatever we're starting to work on, whatever we're about to take to the next level, whatever we're about to break apart, it's going to have a lasting effect, because we're not only are we going through the changes of what's going on in the mutable signs, but we also have this T-square energy in the fixed signs. So whatever eggs we're breaking has a long-term effect. Can you take a look at this? Tell me how it tastes. Tell me how it fits. Give me your opinion, because this is what I'm going to wear tomorrow night. This is what I'm going to wear on that first date. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. This is how I'm going to roll it out tomorrow. This is what I'm going to do. Can you take a look at it? And this moon square to Venus feels like exactly that. It's asking an opinion. And we might not necessarily like the answer, but we're asking for an honest opinion. And that's what's the most important part. The moon is going to hit the square with Venus between 10 p.m. and midnight. You can see this right here. And then right as we go into the 27th, of course, the moon is going to do the next part, and it's going to hit its exact opposition to Uranus. Now, this is going to go exact between 12:30 and 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, but I'm going to bump this to 1:30. So I got this on the screen for those that listen audio only. December 27th, moon in Scorpio, hitting the opposition to Uranus, while simultaneously Mercury is going through its exact square to Saturn. Square number 3 between Mercury and Saturn. Now, the previous dates for the Mercury-Saturn square: November 12th, December 6th. So again, and December 6th, not only was that Mercury square Saturn, that was the start of the Mars retrograde. So again, what has changed in the last 2 months? Because based off these transits, we're finalizing changes that have been in development, in the shift, in the turn since the beginning of November. Now, the moon's opposition to Uranus is excited, it's unexpected, sending something over through technology, having some kind of unexpected feedback. But there's something serious and responsible about it because of the Mercury Saturn square. Something that we weren't ready to do before that we're unexpectedly or excitedly ready to do now. Feeling like we finally have something lined up. We've broke some eggs and now our ducks are in a row, like they hatched. That was a good thing. It wasn't yolk, it was ducklings. We got some things like lined up, put into place. And there's something exciting about it. There's something unexpected. There's some level of a surprise on the other side. Like, hey, look at this thing that I've been working on all the last few months. Look at what I did. Oh my God, it's super exciting. That's amazing. That's so great. Yeah. With the moon's opposition to Uranus. Some people are moving forward with excitement. Other people are not going to be moving forward with excitement. Let's be clear. I don't feel like this per se is heavy, but it is definitely something that's feeding into parts of the vibration. Okay, so here you go. Moon opposite Uranus, Mercury square Saturn. The Mercury Saturn square is the most exact between 1:27 and 1:49 a.m. Central Standard Time. But you can see this is also when the moon is hitting that exact opposition to Uranus. So a lot of people are going to be launching something or announcing something next week that's just super exciting. Plans, final decisions, final announcements that are going to, again, indicate a big part of how we're launching into 2025. So that's a good thing. Okay. Now, moving this along, we're going to get to the morning time between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 8:30 on the chart. The moon, 27 degrees, 17 minutes, is going to go through a trine to Neptune, 27 degrees, 14 minutes. This is going to happen early in the morning. Some people are going to be amazed. Some people are going to want to like look into something and explore certain things that they haven't done before. They're going to be like deep diving into something that is kind of like capturing the imagination. This does not feel heavy in a lot of ways. Some people are going to have like a creative spark, and I'm looking at the trine now between the moon going through a trine with Neptune right here. There can be a creative flair to this. There could be something that we want to do that's like really, really fun and imaginative. This by itself is not a heavy energy. Now, for some people, there will be some final realms of confusion. And it might not be confusion that we can break through immediately, because after the moon goes through the trine to Neptune, the moon's going to go void. So we can have something that hits us in the morning time that is a little confusing at first, or it's a little slow to move, a little slow going. If we were up late the night before, we might not be hitting on all cylinders going into the next morning. And that's part of this energy right here. But I just want people to be prepared for that. And again, after the trine to Neptune, the moon's going to go void. Now, keeping this moving, at 1:47 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go into Sagittarius. I got this at 2:30 on the charts. And immediately after the moon goes into Sagittarius, the moon is going to enter a sextile to Pluto. So here's the moon, 0 degrees, 22 minutes. Here is the moon, 0 degrees, 56 minutes. This is felt the most exact between 2:30, which is right at the start of it, and 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can see that right here. The change is receptive. The change is exciting. The change has a lot going on. The change has some level of buildup. Now, the thing about the 27th is once the moon goes into Jupiter's sign, remember, Jupiter is hosting now the moon. It's hosting Mercury, it's hosting Saturn, it's hosting Neptune. Mercury just did its final opposition to that Jupiter. Mercury just went through its final square to Saturn. The sun is in Saturn's sign. A lot of this stuff can speak back to either Mars or Jupiter, depending on the conversation. And I feel like once the moon goes into Sag, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of hopefulness, there's a lot of boastfulness. There is kind of a pep up in the vibration, and this is going to be all weekend. And honestly, if I could have like moved the calendar 2 days and Christmas could have been on Friday, this would have been a better day to have Christmas, honestly, with the moon being in Sag. But it is what it is. We can be receptive of changes, talking about where somebody's had fear of something, but also how we've overcome certain fears, how we've moved past certain fears, given the moon's sextile to Pluto. But it doesn't always have to be fear. Sometimes it's going to just have to do with the changes, seeing the transformation, but seeing the reward from transformation, seeing the benefits of it. It does not have to be heavy. Now, speaking of, right after the moon goes through a sextile with Pluto, it is going to go into a trine with Mars. Now, this is going to be felt the most exact between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I've got the screen at December 27th at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Here's Mars, 3 degrees, 7 minutes, going into a trine with the moon, 2 degrees, 57 minutes. So we're just before the exact trine at this moment. But again, Mars is moving in a different direction than the moon. So we can be having a conversation about going in two different directions, hearing about what somebody else is doing and how they're separating, how their vibration is taking them into a different direction, how they desire to move forward in another way. The moon does not have to go through a negative space in this moment whenever it comes to Mars, but some people will feel tension. They will hear about frustrations. They will hear about volatility. They will feel part of that in the vibration, but it doesn't have to set the stage for everything whenever Mars goes through the trine with the moon. Again, this is going to be felt the most exact between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then after this part of the vibration, we are done with Friday. So moving this along. We're going to get into the 28th and we're going to get into Saturday. The first thing that's going to happen is going to happen right after midnight at 1:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's what I got it on the screen. This is when Venus is going through her exact square with Uranus. So I got Venus 23 degrees, 43 minutes. Here's Uranus 23 degrees, 43 minutes. But these two are in mutual reception. They understand each other. And part of the excitement of what was going on just a few days before, whenever the moon was in Scorpio, hitting that square to Venus, hitting that opposition to Uranus in that overnight hour time span, that could have been one final round, one final setup, one final preparation for something that's being launched or taken forward here, some level of excitement. But it's understood excitement, it's understood exchange, it's understood changes. It's not a heavy vibration. We were building to this for the last few days. And for some people with Uranus, it's going to be an understood comprehension of being released, because Uranus is a planet of release. It's a planet of independence. But this is like welcomed independence. It's understood independence. We're on the same page, and that means I don't have to stay here anymore. You know, I don't want to be here. You don't want me here. Fantastic. Let's make this work in a way that's suitable for both of us. There is excitement. There is an understanding of relief. There's an understanding of unexpected turns, unexpected breakthroughs, but there is also unexpected releases. And I feel like a lot of people, it's unexpected to the outside, not so much the people that are in the situations. I think a lot of people are going to get to next weekend and hear about a whole slew of events that have happened throughout the week, but they weren't necessarily privy to, because that's not their changes to deal with. And that's going to really speak through the vibration as we continue through Saturday. So again, the Venus-Uranus square, it's the most exact between 1:24 and 1:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. There's going to be some level of hopeful, exciting energy that either plays out on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. I feel like once the moon goes into Sag, that's whenever it's going to really like take off, and it's going to have a hopeful vibration to it, even if we did break some eggs to get here. Okay. Now let's continue this. Let's get into the afternoon. And what's going to happen next is going to have a simultaneous vibration. So we're going to get the screen to 4:30. There we go. December 28th, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we got two things going on. So first things first, the moon in Jupiter's sign in Sagittarius is going to hit in opposition to Jupiter. So we're just past the exact at this moment. I've got the moon 13 degrees, 54 minutes opposite Jupiter at 13 degrees, 33 minutes. But I wanted it at this point because this also includes whenever the moon goes through its exact square to Saturn. Now that's going to be felt the most exact between 4 and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. What I said on Tuesday, whenever the Jupiter-Saturn square was exact, is that the moon was void. And some people will be doing something, wrapping something up, turning something over, doing something, hear me out, earlier in the week that won't necessarily fully connect in the moment. We need a few days. By the time we get to Saturday, most people are going to understand the connection. And it's either because Mercury in its opposition square or with the moon right here doing its final round. And this does feel like a final layer, the whipped cream, the cherry, the toppings to the Sunday situation. Some people will be coming into a situation that are going to be learning again about a bunch of changes that just occurred while the moon goes through this T-square between Jupiter and Saturn. But this does feel like a final round and a final layer to the prior situations, to the events that we've come to terms with in a multitude of ways throughout the week. The moon's opposition to Jupiter while the moon is in Jupiter's sign does not feel heavy. It feels like the confirmation. It feels like an understanding. It feels like feedback. It feels like a payout. It feels hopeful in the vibration. When the moon hits that square to Saturn, it's more along the lines of like confirmation, final sign off, final filings. Here's the direction. Here's the path. Here's the plan. Moving forward, we're doing this. Moving forward, your title is this. Your role is this. Your dynamic is this. Because that other side, that other person, they're not in the equation anymore. And a lot of people are going to be okay with that. And a lot of this vibration is setting the stage and the mood for how we're going to deal with that new moon in Capricorn. It doesn't even happen this week. It's how we start next week. But it is setting a whole different tone as we continue throughout the rest of the month as to who's in charge of what, who's doing what, where things are going from here. Now, again, the moon's opposition to Jupiter can be felt the most exact between 3 and 5 p.m. The moon square to Saturn can be felt the most exact between 4 and 6 p.m. This does feel like the final layer, the final round, or a whole extra party finding out about a multitude of changes that have just occurred throughout the week, depending on how this is kind of laying out for you. For some people, the final round was the Mercury stuff. For other people, it's going to be this right here. Or you filed something with the Mercury opposition square and you get the results either Saturday or Monday for the human effect, just to be clear. Okay. In the evening time, between 8 and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit a conjunction to Mercury. So you can see that right here. This is going to be felt the most exact, again, between 8 and 10 p.m. I got the screen at 9:30. Mercury is 16 degrees, 19 minutes. Here's the moon, 16 degrees, 13 minutes. So we're just past that exact. And this is conversation. This is planning. This is not heavy. This is jumping in the car with somebody with the Mercury stuff. Hey, can I hitch a ride with you? Hey, where are you going? It's not a heavy vibration. It's really not. And it feels boastful and hopeful. And it feels like we can have a lot of great conversations in this moment. And this conversation really, again, speaks to the result of how much has gone on over not just this week, but the last few months, and our opinion about that, our desires moving forward, what we've learned in this moment, and what we're going to do moving forward. There is acceptance in this meeting just as much as there can be frustration. But I feel like more people are in the idea of acceptance, though. I don't necessarily feel like there can be frustration. I just feel like you can be hearing about frustrating things that have occurred, but also hearing the plan or the opinion of how things are going to progress from here. Now, when it comes to Saturday, the moon's conjunction to Mercury, again, between 8 and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the last direct transit to Saturday, and we don't have a whole lot going on Sunday. So we're going to get to the 29th, and we're going to get to the one and only major transit that's going on. And this is going to happen between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I've got December 29th, 5:30 p.m. Here's the moon, the final degrees of Sagittarius, hitting the square to Neptune. Hey, I know so-and-so is leaving. I know so-and-so is not going to work there anymore. Do you know who's going to be filling that position? Do you know if they're going to hire immediately? Do you know what they're going to do? Oh, no, I don't. Huh. No, I don't. The moon square to Neptune can have confusion. Now, as we build to this all day, I don't necessarily know that we're going to have a ton of confusion. Some people will, but I think other people are going to be just kind of lost in the sauce. I think that a lot of people are going to be vibrating and really hopeful for the possibilities. And with the square to Neptune that's building all day and actually goes exactly again here in the evening time, as you can see, we're looking at the potential, but knowing that we're not going to really rectify and experience the full potential until we get into the next week, until we go back to the office, until we do that next thing. Now, we can be doing something here that's very nostalgic. Some of us, we will still be looking at Christmas lights even after the holiday, or we're going to be finally enjoying parts of that time with our family after doing a bunch of work throughout the week. But Sunday does not feel heavy. Sunday feels actually very nice, and it feels hopeful. And I think that there's going to be a creative element to it, given that square to Neptune. And then after the square is done, the moon is void. So for some people, this can be confusion. For some people, this can be a questioning because it is a square. But I don't feel like it's going to be a crazy amount of questioning. I don't feel like it's a crazy amount of confusion. I feel like a lot of things are going to boast well moving forward from here. And by the time we get into the late hours, so exactly at 10:38 p.m., so I'm just going to bump the screen to 11:30, the moon's going to go into Capricorn. And on the 30th, we're going to have a new moon in Capricorn, but that's not playing out right here, just to be clear. So again, next weekend looks great. Next weekend looks like we get a lot of things accomplished throughout the week to get to next weekend. And honestly, if I'd had a vote in the matter, if we could have pushed the holiday to, again, the weekend, I think it would be a much better time for the holiday. However, I didn't get a vote. Y'all didn't get a vote. That's just kind of how it's laying out this time. There's a lot of intensity to this week. And again, a lot of the intensity to this week is playing things out from prior events, prior discussions, prior topics, prior agreements. And a lot of people are aware going into this week where our splits are going to be, where we don't see eye to eye with certain people anymore. And once we let them know that, if we haven't already, it cements a whole different level of action or reaction and a ripple effect of things are going to follow. Given the dynamic of how this week presents itself and how things will continue to lay out going into the first week of 2025, which next week is both the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. So let's be clear about that. We are really setting the stage and lining a lot of things up for what we're going to be focused on and working through and trying to create as our new normal going into 2025. Some of us, we've been building a lot of things, putting a lot of things together, trying to get something going for a while. And it's like, no matter how hard we've tried, there's always been someone or something just kind of pushing against us, working against us, pushing on the brakes. And it has made it very, very clear in a lot of ways, like, you and I are never going to agree. And if we're never going to agree on things, then we need to go separate ways. Because halting the business and impacting everyone's lives to satisfy one person is not a viable way to run a business. If you and I can never see eye to eye on how to raise the kids, then we have to figure out and bring in somebody else to be that mediator so we can separate and go in our different directions. And there will be some third parties to this week. Some of you will be the third party. And you're going to be brought into a situation where this person is completely rethinking everything that's ever been agreed upon. This person has no desire to back up anymore, and they have to progress forward. Too much money is on the line, and you're the middle person going, oh, wow, well, that's great. Some people have had so many changes in their lives, but the third person that's coming in is like, we need help taking care of the kids, taking care of grandma, taking care of grandpa. Our jobs have changed. We didn't really get in a vote no matter. We're trying to make it the best of the situation because we got to pay our bills. And we need an extra person. We need an extra set of hands. And that is going to be a part of the disruptive vibration. It's a part of the gains. Now, who we bring in, it all comes down to, again, when we started to talk to them and what part of those transits have come in. But sometimes we're going to bring somebody in that's not going to work out for a long time. And anyone that's coming in new in this time frame is probably not going to work out for a long time. There will be a volatility around that person. And I want people to be prepared for that. Whenever it comes to the vibration of where we go next, what we're doing next, how we continue to work moving forward, it's very important to make sure we have our ducks in a row. So be prepared for those kinds of things. Be prepared for changes. And be prepared for things to happen regardless of if it's a holiday or not. Now, again, some of us are going to do one or two things right at the start of the week, knowing it's not going to go anywhere because the other side is not able to receive it. They're not able to work on it. They're not able to do certain things. But on the flip side, that doesn't mean they won't. We just got to get through the holiday. You guys got to be understanding. A lot of you understand that. Some of you won't. You said that the office is going to be open till 5. It's 3:30. Where are you at? Oh, yeah, we closed early for Christmas Eve. I'm sorry. You're right. Our business hours are normally till 5, but we closed early for the holiday. You can drop off that document. You can slide it through a hole. You can email it to me. We can do something else, but I can't do it right now. And people need to be prepared for that. And it's not going to be the end of the world. But this is a big week. It does not have to be the most heavy thing. It doesn't have to be. How you choose to deal with it, how you choose to emotionally respond to certain things, that will be a big maker or breaker in regards to what we're doing next. But all of the changes that we're going into are necessary for the long-term dynamic. The splits and the splittering are necessary. That's just, I cannot talk now, are necessary to go into new directions. And I really think people have to understand that and wrap their head around that. Splits don't have to be bad. People come into our life for a reason or a season. Sometimes we know the reason real fast, but we don't know the season. We don't know if things are going to last forever. And that's what the transits are for. But not everything and everyone that comes into our life is going to be there forever. Sometimes they come in just to get us to a certain point. And then we go in different directions. The path changes. Ideas change. Life changes us. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.